son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We've got all your action from the Crown Royal presents the Combat Wounded Coalition 400 at the Brickyard. Look, I love the charity and I appreciate what Crown Royal is doing here, raising awareness and donating money to a great cause. But this track and this race will forever be known as the Brickyard 400 to me. Liehr, we've got you back this week. How about giving us a little bit of that sweet track breakdown?
Woo! It's good. I'm so happy to be back. Sorry, guys, I was sick a couple of weeks ago, and then last week went to Colorado and got engaged and had a little vacation. So, but man, it is glad to. I'm happy. I'm glad to be back to talk some NASCAR. I've been missing it for the last couple of weeks, but awesome to be with you guys. So, as Poppa was saying, the Crown Royal presents the Combat Wounded Coalition 400 at the Brickyard. Coming from Indianapolis, Indiana, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Track is 2.5 miles in length, 160 miles to complete this race. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has been the track since inception back in 1909. This track has 4 turns with 9 degrees on the banking on the turns, with 0 degrees on the straightaways. This nearly rectangle oval track has a seating capacity to be the largest attended sports venue in the world. So this is this unprecedented track that they get to race on here. This track is so large that drivers can pit, take 4 tires, get fuel, come out, and still be on the same lead lap as the lead driver. So strategy with pit stops will be key this week as far as fuel, tires, right side, left side only, all that's going to come into play. There's going to be very few cautions at this track. So positioning after qualifying is going to be huge since we are coming to you before qualifying has taken place. With the minimal laps this week, there's going to be emphasis placed on the place differential drivers with guys who have led laps and obtained fastest laps. Those will be key with the guys that also get place differential. There will be a mixture of guys up to at least 5 who are going to lead more than 10 laps each based on history here. So interesting fact is NASCAR's raced here since 1994. Out of 22 total races here, 16 wins are by Chevrolet, that's just absolute domination by Chevy. 3 wins by Ford and 1 win by Toyota, with a couple mixtures of like Pontiac and Dodge, that don't participate manufacturers anymore. So, but Kyle Busch won the race last year, 2015, in the Toyota to give them their first win. But the race is going to be Sunday afternoon, July 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN. So get your cable ready. Weather is going to be 93 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. There's a 50% chance of precipitation this weekend. Wind is going to be south-southwest at 7 miles an hour, according to weather.com. But excited to get this one underway, boys. I know we're going to be talking about it, but the return of the Godfather, Jeff Gordon, this week. Let's get to it.
All right. And with that said, it's time to get into the Burning Rubber segment. There we haven't had you.
Burning Rubber, baby! Woo!
Wow, that was definitely 2 weeks worth right there. Adrian, who do you have for us to burn some rubber this week, buddy?
Yeah, all right. Well, here it is, guys. Everyone that clicked on this show on YouTube, they saw our face sitting there. They were like, "All right, well, who's gonna be the one to pick Jeff Gordon?" Well, it's me. I'm gonna take Jeff Gordon, the number 88 Exalta Chevrolet. Something just feels right about this weekend. When I think about Jeff Gordon, being back in NASCAR, it kind of just gives me chills because, when I first started liking NASCAR, that was my driver. And I have pictures of me at 5 years old. And I think everyone grew up a Jeff Gordon fan because we all thought he had the coolest car, with the flames and everything. But for him to be back, it's just it's the biggest storyline that we've seen this whole entire season. There's been a lot of incredible things that happened this year. Martin Truex's win at Texas was really big, really emotional. But this might be a bigger storyline than even that. With Jeff Gordon back, he's not going to be in the 24. With him being in the 88, guys, I think his ownership percentage is going to be through the roof. But I think he's the guy that you're going to have on your teams because he's only 8,900. He's a 4-time champion. And he's pretty good at Indianapolis, actually. I don't know if you guys realize actually how good Jeff Gordon is here. Apparently, he's the inaugural race winner of the Brickyard 400. He has 5 Indy wins. He has 17 top 10s and 22 starts. So only 5 times he's finished outside the top 20 or outside the top 10. 12 top 5s in those 22 races, which is pretty much over a 50% clip. And you know, he was 9th in final practice, so he proves that he can come back and knock off the rust and be fast and, you know, contend with these other guys who compete every single week. And every other driver has talked about how there will be no learning curve for Jeff Gordon. He will jump in the number 88 car and he will go fast. And he'll go fast just like Jeff Gordon did, or just like Dale Earnhardt Jr. would in the car. But yeah, I mean, my pick to win is Jeff Gordon. It's going to be incredible if he wins. I know he won't be granted a chase waiver. If he wins, everyone's wondering if Jeff can win the race, if Jeff's going to run the chase. NASCAR's not going to grant Jeff a waiver when he wins this race. But I think Jeff Gordon's going to give Exalta, their first win on the 88 team. And it's going to be really, really exciting to see all the buzz that surrounds NASCAR if Jeff Gordon can pull something off, or if another guy I'm going to talk about later can pull it off too. It's going to be huge for the sport of NASCAR and the storylines. But Jeff Gordon's an Indiana boy. It's his home track. He said that he didn't even think twice about when he was offered the ride. He didn't even think twice about turning it down. So I mean, Jeff Gordon's well rested. He's coming off vacation in France. He's been working on the simulator. He's been fast at practice. Qualifying is going to tell a lot because we haven't said it yet, but we're recording this before qualifying so we can get it out to you guys quicker. But qualifying is going to tell a lot. But guys, I'm going to be all over Jeff Gordon this weekend, partly because that little part of me and my heart's getting into it too much. I just want to cheer for Jeff Gordon so much. But yeah, I'm really deep, going really deep on the 88 car.
Predictable but bold, sir. Predictable but bold. I mean, it's just going to be so awesome to see Jeff Gordon come back and race. I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, this is going to be one of these top storylines of 2016 in the NASCAR community for him to come back and fill in for Dale Earnhardt while he's out for his concussion. But it's just going to be so odd to see him drive the number 88 instead of the number 24. But it's just awesome just to see him come back and race this weekend. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, he's a hometown boy from Indiana. He's obviously grown up with driving on Indianapolis, and there's no other driver that has more experience, more wins. He's not obviously an active driver, but he's driving this weekend. But there's nobody that has as many wins as he does. With his teammate Jimmy Johnson right there with the wins factor. But Jeff Gordon, he's got a lot of the stats here, but the other thing that is just going to make him such a huge play this week, fellows, is his price point. I mean, it's unbelievable to get a guy with his stature at $8,800, and I think his ownership percentage is just going to be stupid crazy. Not only for the fact of he's raced here multiple times, he's got the best track history here. He's in some of the best equipment. He's in a Chevy, but his price is $8,800, which is very doable. And you're only going to get to play him twice this year. So I think the ownership percentage is going to be stupid, but it's going to be one of those where I'm going to play probably enough Jeff Gordon to have coverage, but I'm also going to play enough to not have Jeff Gordon just for that, just in case, because there's going to be so much ownership percentage on Jeff Gordon that if something were to take place like last year, unfortunately his last race during his last season, he got wrecked and had a bad finish last year. But hopefully he'll be able to turn around this year. And depending on qualifying, he's definitely going to be a play without a doubt.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to continue on the Jeff Gordon love. I think it's awesome. Like, there's no reason to rehash it. The interesting part here is the ownership percentage discussion. Like Liehr alluded to it, that it'll be super high owned. It doesn't matter if he does what he's done here. And if you fade him for any reason other than being contrarian, you're doing something wrong. Like, if you're intentionally designing it to try to be off ownership percentage, fair enough. But other than that, there's zero reason to not have Gordon in your lineup this week. I think another driver that's similar to him, that's just a little bit more expensive, is his teammate Jimmy Johnson, who's underpriced as well at 9,700. I like that play as well this week. The Hendrick cars usually do really well here on this track, and they both have a ton of wins here. I also think what's really cool about the Jimmy Johnson play as opposed to the Gordon play is Jimmy Johnson upset a lot of owners last week, including me, when he didn't rack up enough points. That should drive down his ownership percentage, especially when you combine that between that and he's $900 more expensive. I think I can get Jimmy Johnson, who's got the same basic track history, same exact equipment. I think I can get him at a lower ownership percentage. And if I'm designing fades, that would be the route to go, in my opinion. But with that said, let's get to Liehr for his burning rubber pick.
Ooh, I feel like I haven't done this for a while. But this week, boys, I'm gonna roll with one of my old favorite drivers. It's just, I know a lot of people are gonna scratch their head and be like, huh? But I'm going with the bump. We are farmers. Kasey Kahne in the number 5 Farmers Hendrick vehicle this week. Casey's had a pretty tough year in 2016. He's had, he's obviously in some of the best equipment that there is on the circuit, but just hasn't been putting up the results in regular NASCAR statistics and along with fantasy. But this is obviously, we live in the fantasy world here, and that's basically all we care about is points. But Kahne is my burning rubber guy this week because he should be good in both GPPs and cash games this week. Obviously, we haven't had qualifying yet, but if he qualifies, out of his mind like a top 10, I'm probably going to halter my love for Kasey Kahne. But his cost this week is just ridiculous. It's so enticing. It's $7,700. This is the lowest cost that Kasey Kahne has been in quite some time. He has the ability to top at least 7 to 8 times his salary, with a minimum of 4 times, his salary this week. So, I mean, it's pretty easy for him to at least get 4 times his salary in that 30 to 40 point range. But he does have the capability of producing 7 to 8 times his salary. But he has some decent history here at Indianapolis, especially as of late. A few years back, he led 70 laps in 2014. He's had some positive place differential within his last 4 races here, all finishing positive. He's led 158 laps total in 12 races, with all those coming in 3 races total. I think this week is your chance to actually play Kasey Kahne, get your value out of him, and also own him at a lower percentage based on his recent history. And in this past month, he hasn't been doing so well. So Indianapolis is one of the tracks he does really well at. And like I said, just based off of his history, you should consider him definitely a play at that $7,700 price point. He's going to be in majority of my GPP lineups and in some of my cash game lineups too this week. But like I said, my recommendation is to play Kasey Kahne. I even pulled out the old number 9 Kasey Kahne pajama pants here. So it's going to bring the luck.
All right, Liehr, you said I was going to be scratching my head, and I am. I love you, bro, and I get Kane's history here, but he has been garbage for most of this season. And the problem with him from a DFS perspective is I don't have the ability to look into a crystal ball and just guess what tracks he's going to magically show up for and figure out he remembers he's a professional driver and gets around the track appropriately. That's the problem with Kasey Kahne so far this season. And at $7,700, there are other cars I like better where I can spend up a little bit more or spend down, and I don't find myself there. And it baffles me, and I hope that I hope that he overqualifies just to help you save money, because when you said that you're going to have him on a majority of your GPP lineups, I could see putting him on a few here or there, but majority, that's a bold statement, Cotton. And I can't do it. Adrian, your thoughts?
I get it, man. But, for real quick, I mean, like I said, he's raced through 12 times. He's got 6 top 10. So, I mean, that's a 50% clip at finishing the top 10. And that's including 3 top 5s. So, I mean, he's got some really good history here. My hopes are that he just qualifies really late. And he's definitely going to be, that place differential guy that you're going to really need.
Hey, well, you can see I'm rocking the signed Kasey Kahne hat here. So obviously, got some love for Casey Kane. I haven't been playing Casey Kane drivers that I want. I'm playing a lot of drivers like that this weekend, especially since they raised the prices of guys like Greg Biffle and Ryan Newman up so high. Really like those two guys. But Casey Kane is one of those guys where he's going to either run 6th or 16th, and that's the real problem with Casey Kane is he's either really going to show up for a race or he just won't be there at all. But the good thing here with this being, our 2-mile track is he's very good at Pocono, and I consider Pocono to be very similar to Indianapolis. And he's had a lot of success at Pocono, and I don't see any reason that he can't go out here and have a good top 10 run, especially with this, the stat Jamie pointed out about, Chevy having, 16 wins here. You kind of want to stack the Chevrolets, in my opinion. I know Gibbs has been really fast, but if you can get a Chevrolet for that cheap at $7,700, that a Rick Hendrick car, Casey's the cheapest. You're going to get exposure to the Rick Hendrick stable, so you also have to think about that. So it's obviously a GPP variant play, but I don't see any reason to be against playing Casey Kane this week. But it's definitely going to depend on qualifying. If he qualifies outside the top 20, he'll probably be on a ton of my lineups. But if he qualifies inside the top 12, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I mean, and just like your internet connection, Adrian, he's a little sketch, and that's what concerns me. It's not that he doesn't have the performance history just like you. Sometimes it's a little sketch. No, I'm just playing. But you mentioned the JGR cars, and I think that transitions well into my burning rubber pick, which is Kyle Busch at 10,400. Like, I wouldn't feel right if I wasn't JGR and out, and since Adrian didn't take Kyle, I could finally get back on my boy for DFS purposes. Look,
2 weeks in a row.
Rowdy has finished first or second in 3 of the last 4 races on this track. That is utter domination. Either way, even if he qualifies first or second tomorrow, he will pay off at that race and that clip. He also leads a bunch of laps here. In 11 races here, he has 9 top 10s, 4 top 5s, and the win I mentioned before. He also has a solid history of place differential here. Oh, and he's the fastest car on track during practice and will probably sit on the pole and lead a bunch of laps. I just think you're going to need to be on Kyle Busch this week. But I don't just want to give you one of Team JGR. I'm going to give you a little bit of bonus coverage here. I also love me some Kenseth this week at 9,600. He's a stud here with 3 consecutive top 10s, all with great place differential. The same goes for Denny Hamlin. The last 2 races here, he's been a must-own with plus 24 place differential and a 3rd place finish, and a plus 12 place differential with a 5th place finish. Basically, what track history says here in the last 3 races is you wanted to at least make a JGR stack out of if you're building multiple lineups. I've got several, as you know me, to be the JGR fool. I love playing JGR cards. I think Cousin Carl out of the group will be the lowest owned at 9,900. I think he's more expensive than the others, and he doesn't quite have the track history that the other guys do, at least recently. Your guys' thoughts, Adrian?
Yeah, Kyle Busch has been to me, but I didn't make the play, just because I picked him the last 2 weeks, and I felt that, it was right to let someone else have a turn to ride the Rowdy train. But as always, Kyle's going to put it up on the crispy edge. He's my top target this week. Kyle Busch is, he's going to run right there with Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick, I think. I think those are going to be the 3 guys, the 18, the 88, and the 4 car. Those are going to be the guys you're going to have to beat to win this race on Sunday. And if Kyle gets the pole, he's going to be gone, and he's going to be stupid fast just like he was last weekend. He's going to lead a ton of laps, and he's going to pay off his salary very, very quickly. As Kyle Busch does, he's very good at putting up 80-point days. So, yeah, like I said, Poppa's already given all the stats, but Kyle Busch was going to be my pick, but I decided to let him have a turn so that I could pick my boy Jeff Gordon.
Oh, and just to be clear before Liehr gets started, we are tasting the rainbow this week. We're not on the crispy edge.
Right.
We're in that Skittles gold.
Right.
Goodness. All right, Liehr, your thoughts, bud?
There's just no way that you cannot play Kyle Busch here. I mean, the stats speak for themselves. Only thing that makes me just a little bit hesitant is he did win here last year. It just really depends on where he qualifies at. I mean, he started 9th last year when he won the race. So obviously he has proven that, he can move up through the pack, especially at this type of track where there's not so much banking. It's all flat. But with his experience, I mean, he's raced here since 2005, so 11 total races. But like I said, it's going to be crazy to it's going to have to be who you have to choose, who's going to lead most laps, but also get that place differential, encapsulated into that one particular driver. And I think that Kyle Busch is definitely got a chance to take home the victory for sure, without a doubt. His price point's $10,400, so a little pricey. But I mean, yeah, I'm going to be all over Kyle Busch definitely as well. So, but hopefully there will be a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow at the end of the race.
Exactly. That's what I like to hear, Liehr. All right, that wraps up the Burning Rubber segment, kids. Brings us right along to value. As you can tell, Liehr went with the more value Burning Rubber guy. Adrian and I have got a lot of high expensive ammo for you to play this weekend. Adrian, who's your value guy for us this week? We need some more value.
Well, he's kind of been a guest host on the show. He's been kind of quiet back there. But I'm taking Tony Stewart, which is a bit of a surprise. If in case anyone doesn't know, Tony Stewart is actually my least favorite driver. But I'm actually going to tout Tony Stewart this weekend. I like the storyline this weekend. I like everything that surrounds him, the media buzz, his attitude, the way that 14 team's been performing. Tony was in the media center this morning, and someone, the first person that got on the mic, they said, "Smoke, it's your final Brickyard 400. How would it feel to win it?" And he said, it'd be all right, I guess. Which just showed that he's not having it with the sentimental type questions. He's not interested in playing those kind of games. And he said he's more focused and more confident than he's been in a long time. He told Marty Smith from ESPN that it's been a long time since he's felt this confident and this competitive. And Mike Bubba Ravitch and that 14 team, they've really been performing well of late. If you look back at Sonoma, he had 50 or 65 points on DraftKings. And then you skip over the Daytona race because that's just a wild race that you can't predict. And then you go to Loudon, and he finishes second and has 56 points. And then you look at Kentucky, and he finishes fifth and has 54 points. The numbers just kind of speak for themselves as far as Tony Stewart's stats go and the way that team's been performing. He's a two-time Brickyard 400 winner, taking home the trophy in 2005 and 2007. He's had 17 career starts here. And in those 17 races, he's finished in the top 10 in 11 races. He's also finished in the top 5 in 7 of those races. And a stat that just kind of blew me away about Tony Stewart that's really going to make you feel secure about playing him at the $8,400 price tag. He's actually tried to attempt 2,725 laps here in his career. He's completed every single one of them. He has never not finished a lap that he started at Indianapolis, dating back 17 years, which is just incredible and shows he knows how to get the job done here. And like I was, doing with Jeff Gordon, it's another Indiana boy. The storylines are definitely there. Tony's last trip to Indianapolis. He has the second best average finish, among active drivers here of 9th place. And he's actually one of the hottest drivers in the sport right now. I just don't see a way that you're not playing Tony Stewart at $8,400. If I'm saying to play Tony Stewart, you really know that Tony's back and Tony's driving well and performing well, because I'm one of Tony's biggest critics, and I will freely admit that. But this week is the week to play Tony Stewart. The Mobile One car is going to, come home nicely in the top 10. Just hope Tony qualifies outside the top 15 so that it pays off even more.
Well, it's kind of ironic, that you're taking him, because I know as much affinity that you have for him. But just because you just said that stat, the 27-25 laps out of 27-25 laps, 100%, and what happened to Jeff Gordon last year, I think you just threw the jinx at him.
Don't say that.
But no, I mean, there is no other driver. I know I've been absent from the show the last couple of weeks, but obviously I've still kept into what's been, the heartbeat of what's been going on in the sport. But as far as fantasy-wise, there has been no other driver besides Tony Stewart since that Toyota Save Mart 350 win at Sonoma that has been hotter than Tony Stewart since then. I mean, the guy is just, from that win itself, has just boosted his confidence above and beyond what he was, before. And him and his team have been working together really, really well. And, just like you said, I mean, the storyline is here. He is also an Indiana boy, just like Jeff Gordon, and he's coming home for his last Brickyard 400. So this race means a lot to him. As much as that fascia that he's putting on for you, that it doesn't mean anything, you know that it means deep down inside of him that he wants to win this race. And he's that type of racer too. He's going to do whatever he can to get that win. That includes, putting on some bold strategies too, to get up there and do that. So I'm right there with you. I really hope that he qualifies pretty poorly. But based off of what they've been doing, as of late, they'll probably qualify between the 10th and the 20th spot. But you never know. I mean, he could have a top 5, qualification. And just based off of, everything they're going to share between the Kevin Harvick team, himself, Kurt Busch, he doesn't really have that good of history here. But, Stewart-Haas Racing, they definitely are one of the top dogs as far as racing teams within NASCAR. And he's going to do whatever he can to take it home this week. And if he can qualify high in the teens, 20s, I am all over Tony Stewart at 8,400. The closer that he gets down to that, starting on the pole, I'm going to pull back just a little bit. But at 8,400, it's hard to get off of Tony Stewart this week.
Yeah, dude, at 8,400, once again, the only reason to fade Tony Stewart's if you're trying to be contrarian and get off what the masses have. If you're not playing Tony Stewart at that price, you're mistaken. And that should mean a lot, excuse me, coming from me. As you know, I probably talk crap on Tony Stewart more than any other DFS commentator. I've had major problems with him, but you guys are right. Ever since I win, he seemed to right the ship and he seems to have a newfound confidence that he hasn't had for the past few years in a NASCAR Cup car. I also like to get away from the ownership though. If you're looking for somebody else that has great track history here, that's in the exact same equipment, I love Harvick. Even though he's 10.5, play Harvick. I know he's the most expensive at 10.5, but guys, with all that sexiness in the middle, people are not going to pay up for drivers this week. And if those are the guys that are racking up the laps led and the fastest laps, that's where the damage is going to be done for daily fantasy this week. That's where I'm leaning, at least.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, pretty much covered Tony Stewart. But if you're not going to play Tony Stewart, some other guys that I really like around his price tag, I really like Kyle Larson. I really like Kyle Larson's had some really bad luck lately. And if you look at his track history recently on DraftKings, if you look at the past recent races, the numbers don't really impress you. But he's had the worst luck of any driver I've seen in a long, long time this season. From running in the top 5 at Loudon and getting spun, everything just can go wrong. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong for Kyle Larson. But I think this is a track where he can really show everyone, some of his skills. I think that it's going to be hot and slick and everyone's going to be sliding around. And I think Larson could really come and show some of his talents. He's got a lot of confidence coming off his Eldora win. And Chip Ganassi, has a lot of experience at Indianapolis. So there's a little bit of bonus coverage. I really, really like the Ganassi cars. I like Larson and McMurray this week.
Wow, dude, he's giving us like a 3 for there. Liehr, who do you got for value, man?
Just real quick, I like those drivers too this week, some of my sneaky plays. But just real quick on Tony Stewart, just think where we started the season and where he was at. We were talking about his last season. I really had no expectations for Tony Stewart at all this year. I figured he was just going to go out with a whim, and NASCAR was going to give him a nice kiss goodbye and thanks for your time, and we appreciate everything you've done for the sport. But he's really come into his own with that win that Denny Hamlin gave him. So it's just one of those things that I think it's a conspiracy for NASCAR to give Smoke nice last go around. But the guy, there's no doubting it. The guy's still talented at his age. But I definitely think he's got a good shot of taking home his second victory of the season this weekend. So
your value pick?
My value pick this week. I'm so choked up about it.
Yeah, clearly, you guys are just taken back as we spent like 10 minutes talking about Tony Stewart.
Yeah. I'm going to be rolling. My value pick this week is Ryan Blaney in the number 21. He's been hot and cold in recent weeks, but qualifying obviously is not taking place yet. But in the first 2 practices, He qualified 21st in the first practice and 14th in the second practice. He's only raced here once, and that was last year. Great finish for him. Great points that he accumulated while he was here at the Brickyard last year. He started 30th and finished 7th. His cost this week again is very, very doable at 7,500. My hopes for him is that he has another poor qualifying run tomorrow as he did back in 2015. Hopefully starting later than the 25th position. He's been gaining a ton of experience this year. And, the guys at the Wood Brothers team, they've got a lot of experience here at the Brickyard with the different drivers that have been behind that number 21. But he's primed to have a nice finish this weekend, which should produce some really good fantasy points and especially value. But he's going to be an awesome GPP play for you this week. But as far as cash games, I probably would halter my my playing of Ryan Blaney in cash games just because you're going to want somebody that's going to be more consistent that is going to produce points versus somebody that's kind of a little bit of a variance there. But Blaney at that price point and the way he's been driving this year, I definitely like Ryan Blaney this week as my sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, last race here, and the only one he has, he put up north of 50 fantasy points, which it was pivotal. If you had him with the JGR cars, you soul crushed the contest. Yeah. I don't see him repeating that performance. It'll take him way under qualifying, and then he'll have to move his way up through the field. I don't see it, and $7,500, you're going to see that there's somebody I like a whole lot better that's $200 cheaper, and we'll get to him in just a second. But before we do, we'll get Adrian's thoughts on Blaney.
Oh, young Ryan Blaney. I love that guy. This is going to be a weekend where Ryan Blaney's probably going to qualify in 4th position. That's basically how I see it happening. Those Penske cars and those Penske motors are just so fast. Ryan Blaney's probably going to qualify in the top 5 or 6 cars and make it where you can't play him at all. Just because he's so good at qualifying. But if he does qualify outside the top 15, I'm definitely going to play Ryan Blaney. But there's always guys like Jamie McMurray and Greg Biffle who never qualify well and are always outside the top 15 and top 20 that I like playing more. But I definitely love Ryan. He's shown that all year long. He's learning so quickly, and he's definitely impressed me. I'm definitely going to have some exposure to Ryan Blaney, but everything depends on qualifying.
Oh, yeah. For sure. And I think that transitions as well into my value pick, which is Biffle at 7,300. Yeah, they bumped him. And yeah, I'm going back to the well for the 3rd week in the row. But I have to. And the reason why is because he followed up his 56-point performance with a 62-point performance. And, guys, you have to play him from a value perspective. He's just destroying. And the reason why is exactly what Adrian told you. They have a history of notoriously qualifying poorly. They for some reason, Roush Fenway messes up qualifying, and they have been for the second half of the season. And that car is just fast. It has an amazing track history here. And you guys know how I love Narrative Street. And unfortunately, he lost his father this week. And our hearts go out to the Biffle family and our thoughts. That's got to be tough to deal with. But we've seen this in sports multiple times. When someone loses a father, they go out and they perform at an inspired level. We've seen it with Peyton Manning. We've seen it with, not Peyton Manning, excuse me. We saw it with Brett Favre. We've seen it with several athletes after their fathers have passed away. I would expect Biffle to drive the wheels off that car and to put that car in the top 3, possibly even a win. And at 7,300, you're going to reap the benefits when you have him on your lineup. Plus, this car was actually the fastest car on the track until people started going back out in qualifying trim. In race trim, he was the fastest car out and laid down a lap where all the commentators were just amazed. So what are your guys' thoughts if I'm telling you got to play some Biffle this week, as long as he doesn't qualify too high? But I think even if he does, you're still okay playing him at that price tag.
No, you don't have to tell me to ever play Greg Biffle. He's been on my team the past 280. And I'll continue to ride the hot hand because the way Biffle's been performing. And yeah, I also want to, extend my thoughts and my prayers to Greg Biffle and his family. It's going to be tough to deal with a loss like that, but you're right. I think it's gonna motivate Greg. It's really gonna inspire him. And I think this is gonna be a great week for Greg in that 16 team. And I feel something very good there. I feel like, you call me crazy, I feel like if you put Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Greg Biffle on a team, that's like riding like the storyline team. And I keep going there for some reason because like those three guys, just based on the storyline, I feel like those three guys are destined. I could be wrong, but to me, just based on like the way I've seen races play out, and like looking back and like being like, oh, that was so obvious that guy was going to do that. Like, you know, I don't want to name examples because I don't want people to think I think NASCAR's rigged. But it just seems like it's a perfect storm to where Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Greg Biffle, you know, three of the biggest storylines leading into the week. I feel like all three of those drivers are going to pay off, you know, what you're asking from them. And Greg Biffle's been running so well lately. I love the pick.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, boys. You know, Biffle in that 16, they've just been running really well as far as fantasy-wise. The last couple of weeks, I mean, just racking up the fantasy points. And to be honest with you, he's been paying off value since you know, the last race we had at the Firekeepers 400, where he only scored 26 points. But I mean, after that, I mean, the lowest he's had is 30 points. So I mean, he's been worth every bit of his salary since then, and that's over a month ago. So that 16 team has been on fire. And I don't see it changing this weekend at all. You know, especially like you guys have talked about. You know, definitely sorry, Biff, for your loss of your father. I know it's always hard to lose a parent, but you know, he's going to do the best that he can to go out there and represent his name and produce a good, you know, result. And I think that he's going to be really, really motivated to take it home this week. So it's really going to hinder for me where he qualifies tomorrow. But based off of the practices, you know, like you said, if he continues to be as fast as he is in race trim, I mean, he's going to shoot right up there to the top. But when it comes to practice, I mean, he was in the middle of the teens and then early 20s in the second practice. So, but he's going to be all worth his value at 7,300, no matter, you know, where he really starts this weekend.
Yeah, like I said, I just like the decals to honor his father that are on the rear, like on the rear of the car above the driver, like right behind the windows. They've got these gold black hologram looking stickers like to honor his father. It's a really touching tribute to his father, and I think he's going to perform amazingly because of that. And with that said, I think that wraps up the value. It's time for everyone going to the garage where we talk trash on drivers. Now remember, guys, it could be that we don't like the driver. It could be that we don't like the way DraftKings has priced them. It could also be that we don't like the way they're performing on this track, or we don't like where that car or where that team's at currently. With that said, Adrian, who do you have to go to the garage this week, buddy?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't like about the driver that I'm going to pick this week for my going to the garage. My driver that I'm taking to go to the garage this weekend, he drives the number 47. It's AJ Allmendinger. You know, he's an open wheel guy who, you know, thinks about Indianapolis, and, you know, it gets him excited because, you know, he came here as a kid to watch people race, you know, AJ Fort and those guys. But the thing that worries me about AJ Allmendinger is this lack of speed that 47 team has shown all season long. And, you know, it really just hasn't been there. And whenever the car is not right, AJ just kind of gives up. And I'm not sure kind of what that is, what kind of tendency that might, you know, be to make him want to just, his attitude is just poor when the car's not handling well. So it tends to be something that makes him struggle. You know, he's raced at Indy. He has a pretty decent sample size at this track. But he actually, his best finish is 10th, and he hasn't had any success. And, you know, his finish of 10th was in the very first race. Other than that, he's finished 20th, 16th, 22nd, 22nd, 18th, and 23rd. And honestly, at his price, it's just not going to pay the bills, guys. And there's just too many other guys that I want to play around this price tag. I might throw a couple of AJ Allmendingers in there just, you know, as a GPP, you know, just to throw it in there because, you know, maybe the storyline is right with AJ Allmendinger being such a fan of Indianapolis. But I'm just really not feeling it this weekend. I'm not really liking the speed that I've seen out of that JTG Dockery racing team. And I'm not going to play AJ Allmendinger this week. Hey, what about, that name's hard to say. What about the Tad and Jody Geschichter? the owners. Just shit. That's
it got deshunked is what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm right there with you, man. I'm definitely not on AJ Allmendinger this week. I know he practiced in the teens in the first practice, but then in the second practice, basically right there, a little bit more. He qualified in the 10th position, but I just have a really bad feeling that he's going to qualify in the mid-teens, and then he's not going to move up from there. There's only one direction for him to go, and that would be backwards. So, but at that $7,100 price point, I have other drivers that I would like to put in my lineups more than I would like to put AJ Allmendinger in there. But there are certain places to play AJ Allmendinger, and there's certain places that you don't. This is just one of those weeks where you just don't.
Agreed. I'm not a fan of the Dinger this week. I don't know what more to add. It's just not the right play in my opinion. All right, Liehr, who do you have going to the garage?
All right, here we go, boys. So, as most of you know, I like to be a little bit bold with my going to the garage picks. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But more than hopefully it pays off. But I'm actually going to be going with the guy that I love the most, my favorite driver on the circuit. I hate to say it, but I've got the number 78, Martin Truex Jr. Furniture Row going to the garage this week. Reason is, boys, is it's not because I don't think that Martin Truex and that 78 team, and I'm sorry, they're in the auto owners vehicle this weekend, but I just, for his price tag and based off of his history that he has here, his cost is $10,300, and when it comes to him and these types of tracks, he just doesn't perform well. And like I said, but there's just no way I can pay $10,300 for him this week. He's raced here a total of 11 times. He's got 0 wins. He's only got 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. He's only got 3 laps led during those 11 starts. Today he was 10th in the first practice and 8th in the second practice. His average starting position here is 22nd. Average finish is 19th. Truex just does not perform well enough here to pay for that kind of salary. And if he leads any laps, it's going to be very minimal. But he'll probably get he'll probably start in the top 10. Based off of the practice and how the 78 team's been well every single week. During this season. But he's not going to finish any higher than 5th, and he's only going to end up paying, if that happens, only about 4 times his salary. It's just not going to be worth it at all. So my recommendation this week, as much as it pains me to make this recommendation, but is to avoid my boy, number 78, Martin Truex Jr. in the auto owner's insurance vehicle.
All right, bro. I'm confused. Like, you're taking your favorite driver to the garage, coming off a 77-point performance, and then a 67-point performance, where he would have won the friggin' race had he not got a mysterious passing in the pits penalty that they just decided to enforce that week.
Against Harvick, yeah.
Yeah. Is this a penance for you missing the show for 2 weeks that you felt the need to sacrifice your favorite driver? Is that why Leonardo's looking at you with an evil smirk in the background? Is because of this play? I just don't understand it. He's in the same equipment Kyle's in. We've seen how good that team is this year with the tech swap with JGR Racing. More Ninja Turtle love, awesome. If ever there was a year for him to bust out and win this race, it would be this year in this equipment. And I can't tell people to fade the guy that's that good. A 67, you had to have it last week, and that's with the pit penalty. It's ridiculous.
You're also talking about a race, too, where there's a ton of laps, where this one is basically cut in half, and he just doesn't have the history here of leading any laps, and doesn't have really much place differential either. So
he hasn't been in a car like this before, Liehr.
It's really going to depend on where he qualifies at.
Well, fair enough. Adrian, your thoughts, man? I think he's in a way better car.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. As soon as you two are done, it's fine. Ladies, you're both beautiful. Jamie is actually not wrong, Poppa. Junior's price I'm just like, okay, look, Martin Truex Jr. is a really frustrating driver for me because every week that I play Martin Truex Jr., he does terrible. And every week I don't play him, he pulls off a Coke 600. So I really don't know what to say about Martin Truex Jr. If I tell you to play him, he's going to wreck. But if I tell you not to play him, then he's probably going to win the race. I really don't know. He's just been running so well lately. But Jamie, the stats just kind of back it up. The fact that he's only had 2 top 10s here. I know that he hasn't been in this good of equipment in the past. And this is a new season with him being in JGR equipment. It's just, man, I feel like when you just get to the top of the list, it's just kind of, it doesn't really depend on qualifying as much. You're spending $10K. It's really just depending on who you think's going to lead the laps. And for me, I think Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick are going to lead most of the race, and I think Jeff Gordon's going to somehow find his way to sneak into the picture because Jeff's never been a guy to dominate a race anyway. So I think that they'll fly outside the top 12 and then go up there and challenge the 4 and the 18. But I really don't see Truex, leading a lot of laps this weekend unless he qualifies on the pole. Usually, I'm going to play the pole sitter without fail. So if Truex is on the pole, then yes, who's just going to go ahead and put Truex.
All right, before Liehr wraps this up, I'm going to call my shot. Truex is going to do something marvelous this weekend in that car. He's going to be less than 10% owned because of that astronomical price tag in his track history here. And if you have him, you are just riding the easy streak to the cash. And without him, you're going to be cursing this race, throwing your laptop or your touchpad, whatever device you use to check your scores. I'm calling it right now. Truex is going to razzle and dazzle everyone. And nobody's going to own him for the exact same reasons that you guys are making.
You can't have Rowdy and Truex. So I'm not going to play Truex. I'm going to play Kyle Busch.
There you go.
Yeah, because that's the way that the lineup construction basically. If you put any lineups together yet this week so far, you've kind of known that. I mean, you're not going to be able to stack, a Kyle Busch, Truex Jr., and Kevin Harvick. Or any of those type of players. So you're going to have to
guys off that way, yeah.
Right, exactly. So you're going to have to pick your poison. And I'm right there with Adrian on this. I would much rather have Kyle Busch than Martin Truex this week. They're basically the same cost. One's $10,400, the other one's $10,300.
Absolutely.
Give me Kyle Busch all day long,
Absolutely.
Based on the track history. And good luck with your Martin Truex this week. But as a Martin Truex fan, yeah, I want the guy to win. But as a fantasy fan, I just don't see it.
Dude, you're absolutely right. But we all three play multiple GPP lineups. Everybody and their brother is going to be making that Kyle play, right? On 1 or 2, it would make sense to swerve and throw Truex in there. Because had Adrian and I done that over Jimmy Johnson last week, we would have won all the contests or tied for first with all the contests instead of being right behind that group like we were. I'm just saying, when we're running multiple lineups, it's not good to exclude a guy that you can get with that elite talent and that elite equipment that could possibly do damage at this track.
Sure.
But
I definitely agree with you. I mean, throughout his career, he has not had this type of equipment to work with, and it's obviously shown. This year, the way he's performed. But this is just not the week and not the track type that he's going to do anything.
Fair enough. All right. Now, I doubt we'll get as much arguments from this one, but my going to the garage is Danica, and I hate to pick on her, but I have to do it because the other Stewart-Haas cars this week are awesome, and I love the other Stewart-Haas cars this week. But Danica will overqualify on this track. She has this problem of overqualifying. Specifically at this track, she has a major problem with overqualifying. In her last 3 races here, she would have gotten you 5 total points, negative 28 points, and 17 points. None of those 3 pay off her $6,300 price tag, even if you're trying to save money and save value. If you're looking to get a good car and good equipment, like added value, find the extra $1,000 and pay for a Biffle. Or save even more money and take the same risk that you would take with Danica on one of the lesser known drivers that's going to be starting further behind her that has better potential for place differential. That's why I'm on it here. In qualifying trim, she already clocked in at 9th. This screams overqualification to me. Adrian?
No, Danica, if you're here, sorry, don't listen to this. Danica, my sweetheart. I know that you've had a lot of IndyCar experience here, but it's just not the week for you, honey. We're going to send both of our IndyCar drivers to the garage, AJ Allmendinger and Danica Patrick. Unprecedented here, because that's the truthful information we give you. Danica's track history is just not there. At this price tag. All right, so here we go, Jamie. It's just, I guess this is the time we do this. But at Danica's price tag, I'm playing Trevor Bayne, guys. I don't care that he has the worst track history of this racetrack. I'm taking the risk on Roush Fenway in the hopes that he qualifies outside the top 15 because Trevor's performance of late has just been insane. If you look at the past 3 races, he has a 3rd place finish at Daytona. He has positive place differential of +10, +8, and +6. If you're at the Danica price tag, play Trevor Bayne. Jamie is going to tell you a bunch of lies. Don't worry about it. Don't listen to it. You can just skip to whenever he's done talking if you want. But play Trevor Bayne at that price tag.
Are we done?
Are you following? I thought you were going to.
It's my turn?
Go ahead, Jamie.
So, as far as the actual reference point here of Danica Patrick, I'm right there with you, Poppa. There's just absolutely no way that I can play Danica Patrick this week. By the way, boys, great pick last week on her to use her last week at Loudon. She definitely paid off for everybody that took your advice. But again, I think they should definitely take your advice again, our advice, I guess I should say, this week and not play Danica Patrick because just at that price point in her history here, that Nature's Bakery Chevrolet is just, she's probably, like Poppa said, going to overqualify. Now, she did have 2 totally different practices, one where she qualified 9th, the other one where she qualified 30th. But she definitely has the equipment, but just based off of her history here, I don't think she's going to be producing much points and paying off at her price point. But as far as the Trevor Bayne discussion here, I am in complete disagreement with Adrian this week. He's being a homer because it's his favorite driver. He can't admit, even myself, my own favorite driver this week, I picked him to go to the garage. You will never, ever, ever in the history of this show ever see Adrian pick his own boy, Bayne, go to the garage. Just because he's not true. He's more telling you with his heart than he is with what he should be telling you, which is his head. But as far as Trevor Bayne goes, the guy's history here is just putrid. He is not good at Indianapolis. When it comes to overall track history, his average finish here is 31.6, and that's out of 5 races. And at $6,300, I'm sorry, but I am not going to be playing Trevor Bayne. I'm
65.
I'm sorry, 6,500, 6,300 is Danica Patrick. But if I have the chance, I would rather play Landon Castle this week than Trevor Bayne. Even though Landon Castle, even though Landon Castle is in way worse equipment than Trevor Bayne, and the only reason I say that is because it really is going to hinder on where Trevor Bayne, where he qualifies at. But I know they've been hot this year. He's got 5 top 10s out of 22 races, but this is just not Trevor Bayne's track, and it's not going to be. And you guys are going to see it right here that I said not to play Trevor Bayne.
All right, Adrian.
All right, so this is let's quickly end the Trevor Bayne hour after this. Jamie, I want to decide right here in this recording on this show for everyone watching, where do you think Trevor Bayne's going to finish this weekend? Because we'll place a wager on it, on the over-under of a certain number of a certain position in the field. Where do you think he's going to finish?
Well, without qualifying, I can't give you a very educated, guesstimation on that.
No, I'd rather wager. This is a pre-qualifying wager.
I'd rather give you an estimate, not a guesstimate. But
okay, give me an estimate.
So when it comes to that, we can make the decision after qualifying tomorrow, and I will give you my pick then, and I will post it on our YouTube page and everywhere else that we do our social media.
A gentleman's bet.
I'll report to it, but he's going to finish top 15.
A gentleman's
You're crazy insane. You need to go have a couple of beers tonight.
You will.
All right, guys. Now that we got there a little bit, that's hilarious. I listened to him do it this afternoon too. I'm glad they were able to work that in for all of you out there.
It was like an hour before we started recording, by the way, guys.
Yeah, they got into it then too. All right, guys. Now it's time for a segment that we're really proud of here at the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy Show. We are the only show that actually puts together a lineup and goes through the process, talking a lineup out that you can compete against in the 20K lug nut, the $5 contest there on DraftKings. Guys, where are we going to start? Everybody seems to be sold on Kyle. We're just going to throw Kyle on this to anchor it.
I was actually going to say that we should start with old 4-time Jeff Gordon.
All right. We'll start.
I think we should just do both of them. I mean, it's pretty well documented that they should both be on the lineup.
Right. In honor of the Godfather and in honor of Tasting the Rainbow, we'll throw them both on the lineup. All right, guys.
Honor the Rainbow Father and the God.
It kind of goes together because remember back in the day when DuPont had like basically the rainbow
scheme.
So,
Yeah, Kyle will definitely be tasting the rainbow when he finishes second.
Well, and now it's Alta can paint the rainbow for him. Yeah. So guys, we've got 7,700 per driver remaining. Where are we gonna go?
I heard Jamie wanted to put Trevor Bayne on there.
I mean, how did you know that? I mean, you totally heard wrong.
All right. Well, you know what, you guys.
Let's let Jamie decide.
Okay.
I say we roll with a little bit of value here, boys, and we dip down a little bit. And I'm right there with you guys. I mean, I couldn't pick him because somebody else picked him already, but I love the Greg Biffle play this week.
All right, let's go ahead and throw Biffle on that team. That frees up a little bit of salary. Gives us 78.33 remaining. That's not really enough to jump up and grab a whole lot, but I mean, guys, Smoke is sitting there at 8,400, and we just need to put him on the lineup.
Yep.
All right. That leaves you 75.50. Okay, guys, and here's what you're gonna see with most of these lineups when you start putting them together like this. If you use Gordon and Stewart, and any combination of the elites with Kyle, and any combination of the values around Biffle's price, you're gonna be at a juncture at the 7,500 mark where you can either punt and then get another stud or go to middle range. Both strategies work on any given week. What would you recommend we show them this week, guys?
This is tough because if you're gonna roll with the Tony Stewart and the Kyle Busch, who we think those are gonna be the high ownership guys, wouldn't you think that you would want to try to leave a little more money on the table? Maybe you look at the qualifying board and you see that Paul Menard usually qualifies very poor, and he won this race in 2011. Maybe you think Paul Menard in that number 2017 could be a good option to leave some money on the table. Maybe he qualifies outside the top 18.
Yeah, that if you could put a Dillon and like what you would end up with is you would have Menard and then enough money for Austin Dillon or Newman or Kane if you wanted to go that way.
If we have enough money for it, I wanted to talk about. I didn't have enough room to make him as my pick, but I really like the way Ryan Newman's been running. I know I've picked him the past couple weeks, and it really worked off when I picked him last weekend. But Ryan Newman and that team have been fast out of the gate this weekend. And they're really heads to the grindstone, pushing towards the chase. And Ryan knows how big this race is. You don't need to tell him.
Well, and he's coming
I'm
off.
definitely going to have a lot of exposure to Ryan Newman, too.
Well, he's coming off back-to-back 50-plus point performances with a 52 and a 55.
Right.
Ryan's really hot right now.
To be honest, I would I love where Lear's heads out with Kane, but I'd rather make the Newman play there than Kane. But to be honest, in order for us to do that,
I would too. It depends on qualifying, though.
Well, right. You have to, a lot of these are going to depend on qualifying. You get the core, idea, but, without knowing where Menard's qualifying or where Newman's qualifying or Kane's qualifying, these picks are suspect to say the least. You know what I mean? All of them. And it's just the nature of not knowing where they qualify. So, guys, you can literally scroll through all these drivers, and it might make sense, depending on qualifying, to super punt, and let's just show them what a super punt looks like while we're doing it.
If you're gonna super punt, if you're going really, really low, I think Chris Buescher is way underpriced this week.
Yeah,
Chris Buescher at 5,100 is way underpriced.
All right.
Yeah.
You put Buescher on the lineup. If you put Buescher in the lineup, that leaves you $10K, which gets
you. And you can put in Jimmy Johnson.
It gets you everybody but Logano, Truex, and Harvick. You have the option up. So.
I like Carl Edwards actually right there, maybe. Those Gibbs cars, man. I think you want to try to get as many Gibbs cars as you can.
Track history says you play Kenseth here, in my opinion, over the others. But
yeah, I like the Kenseth play. I definitely like the Kenseth play. And Roger Penske's never won here, but looking at the Penske boys, they're going to bring some fast cars this weekend. So you can also look at them right there.
Especially
one guy that we did not discuss or talk about whatsoever at all, Chase Elliott. You guys have any affinity for Chase Elliott this week?
I mean,
Chase is one of those guys. Yeah, I mean, he's just going to show up and be fast. It just really depends. If he qualifies sixth, with the guys we think are going to lead the laps, I don't know if he's going to lead any laps, which he's going to probably have to do at that price tag if he qualifies where he should qualify. But if he qualifies outside the top 10, he could be a play.
Yeah. I mean, this is his most expensive week out of any week at 9,200.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to drive down his ownership percentage a little bit. I mean, I'd be exposed to him on a Hendricks stack, but other than that, I don't know. Like I said, on this lineup, where I'm left that with this lineup we've created, I want one of either Edwards, Keselowski, Jimmy, or Kenseth, and that's just where I would go. Mm-hmm. Everybody else below that.
My choice would be Kenseth, hands down.
All right, well, let's do that as a group. Remember, guys, you can compete against this team in the 20K lug nut this weekend. So remember, we encourage you not to copy the lineup exactly. Do a differentiation. Heck, maybe you don't want Buescher on there. Maybe you want to go for a different value. Maybe you didn't like Kenseth. Maybe you wanted to go Keselowski. Make a different play. Compete against us and have fun. With that said, boys, that wraps up another weekend of the show. Let's let everybody say their goodbyes. We'll start with Liehr since he's had 2 weeks off.
The most fresh out of all of them, right?
Yep.
It's been good chatting with you guys, NASCAR again. I absolutely love doing this every single week. Appreciate all the love out there for our show. We appreciate you guys watching each week, especially being dedicated to the show, not only to NASCAR, but also fantasy. I can't wait to see what happens this weekend, especially these next 2 weeks with Jeff Gordon in the mix. It's just going to be throw a huge wrench into people's strategies and what they're going to do. But I just can't wait to see him on the racetrack again, and it's going to be fun and interesting. So, hope you all have a great weekend, and thanks for watching the show.
Adrian?
Yeah, speaking of throwing a wrench into people's strategies, it's going to be good to see Trevor Bayne finish in the top 15 this weekend in Indianapolis, and I hope that team push forward into the chase with Dale Jr. out. Trevor's looking for a good run so he can, help that chase effort out as much as Jamie doesn't want it. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for the Indianapolis race. When you think about this race, it kind of gives you cold chills because you just think of the history of this track. So yeah, I would love to see my favorite driver, Trevor Bayne, perform well. But I also want everyone in their fantasy teams to perform well. And I think that you can with, listening to our advice and watching qualifying and really paying attention this weekend, and going over your lineups with a fine-tooth comb after you watch qualifying. But yeah, yet again, if you're still watching, thanks again. And we really love your support. Comment, like, subscribe, everything. We appreciate your viewing.
Yeah, guys, I just want to say thanks again for tuning in. You are the reason, you and our love of NASCAR and daily fantasy sports is why we do this. And we're hoping we're making everybody a little bit of money. Granted, we hope we make a little bit more money than you guys, but we hope we're all making good money. And with that said, guys, I just wanted to thank you again for tuning in and spending your time with us.
I got one more thing before we leave. So just because Greg Biffle, his father passed away this weekend, earlier, so he'll be racing for him this weekend. if Greg Biffle happens to win the race this weekend, I will give away that Greg Biffle car to anybody that comments, likes the show. So hopefully you watch the whole show, and now you know.
Oh, and
awesome.
Guys, just a heads up. Like,
hey, hold
know,
on. If you comment hashtag stick with the Biff to be entered for
that. Hashtag stick with the Biff. Like I said, we had to fill this before qualifying. We know that we would rather get it out to you after qualifying, but we want to have plenty of time for you guys to get our information out and digest it. Remember, throw out any questions or comments you have on the YouTube page or on Twitter. We will do our best to get back with you. We will have all day Saturday after qualifying and Sunday before race time that we will be commenting. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and let's win some money.